Welcome to Super Fast Tortoise.
Today,
I have a video especially for you, for all cube builders. Today we are going to reminisce over 5 mistakes noob cube builders make. We'll laugh at some of the mistakes we've all made building the cube, and we'll help the noob cube builder avoid these mistakes. And we start right now. And we start with mistake number 1, not knowing what makes a good drafting experience. A lot of aspiring noob cube builders think they have what it takes to be a great cube designer. The truth is, we never are. Well, at first. We play the game, we draft mini matches, play sealed games, and play from other people's cubes. So, we have a good concept of what cards are good for the format, and usually have a good grasp on what cards are the best win conditions. We usually have a strong sense of what the colors do in the color pie. But what stunts the noob cube builder is we don't understand draft flow. Draft flow is the melding of different mechanics together in different colors. Finding abilities and themes that can work with multiple strategies. Having the needed mana ramp and mana fixing spells for every archetype, and the draw and removal spells to make sure that the power level of the cube is at an even balance for creating tempo in decks. Everything I just explained makes drafting easier, creating a draft flow. We struggle with this aspect because we see drafting from the player's side of things and not the game designer's point of view. This knowledge and experience is crucial for us because before we start cube design, we think we know what's good because we know how to draft pretty decent. We play our favorite formats like a champ, so we think we have the answers, which is a good start. The best way I can describe cube design is how I approached my cube. It's like building a legacy in modern format with commander-sized creatures and win conditions. Because people want the competitive feel of legacy and modern decks with the power of commander bombs in a 40-card format. So, in retrospect, you want to learn the anatomy, what makes a cube draft pack. But instead, as noob cube builders, we make mistake number 2. If the card is worth lots of money, it must be good for cube. You want cards that are good as a single card in the cube. A card that is good by itself is what you strive for, especially when you don't want jank in your cube. But when shopping for cards and nostalgia bites you in the butt and you want that amazing card from back in the day, or that one card everybody talked about that is super overpowered and in one of those crazy modern or legacy decks. When this happens, you really want to ask yourself this list of 4 questions I call, is the card worth the ticket price? And they go like this. 1. Does this card connect with your themes and strategies? 2. Is it good in the limited format as a single individual card, or is the card only good in formats that need multiple copies for a repetitive effect for the gameplay? 3. Is the card playable only in the early game? Is it only good in the late game? Or is it good any time during the game if you have the mana to cast it? And finally, number 4. Does the power level and abilities of the card meet or exceed the converted mana cost of the card? The normal noob cube builder looks for price over strategy and nostalgia over substance. And from personal experience, you will find yourself disappointed more often than not with how a card performs in a well-balanced cube. You want cards that serve a purpose and that will enhance your game or strategy when you cast it outside of your scope of the deck. Storytime. Liliana of the Veil. One of my favorite planeswalkers, and at the time was worth $100 non-foil. My wife and I saved the money to get Lily for the cube. I slammed Lily in the cube, drafted until I could play her in multiple decks. Many times I picked her and put her in those decks, and to my disappointment, in Cube, she wasn't as good as she was in Modern and Legacy decks. Since my Cube don't run a discard strategy, she was a bad choice. So, in retrospect, she was not worth the ticket price. To which noob cube builders need to stop doing is mistake number 3. Building a cube without parameters, goals, or restrictions. Decide before building a cube what you want in the darn thing yourself. Figure this out. Don't like opponents' discarding strategies? Don't put them in the cube. Don't like planeswalkers? Don't put them in the cube. As simple as that. This is your cube. Your chance to express yourself through designing your own Magic the Gathering world. So start with an archetype and rule list for each monocolored section in the cube. For example, white, enchantments matter and combat. Blue, control and draw cards. Black, graveyard matters and removal. Red, fast creatures and other color support. Green, big creature, stompy, and ramp. Then start the cube with building this monocolored cube and study how each color interacts with each other. For example, red and green. How do they work together? Playtest and look at the weakness between red and green cards and ask yourself, what could make these cards better? And boom, you started your Gruul multicolored selection. Use Gruul colored cards to add and improve the red-green archetype. Rinse and repeat this process for all your 2-colored pairings, like red-blue, black-white, so on, so forth, etc., etc. This is because you set parameters. Testing your parameters gave you goals, and you know what cards you don't want in the cube because you made those rules. Through setting up restrictions, you effectively bred creativity. That sounded a bit silly, but not as silly as mistake number 4, rarity in cube. When I built my first cube, I thought I was smart, maybe a genius, ahead of the curve, ahead of the game, better than the pros that have designed cubes before me. I put in an exact number of mythics, rares, uncommon, and commons, and even a set number of planeswalkers in the cube for each color. For example, 30 commons, 16 uncommons, 8 rares, 4 mythics, and 1 planeswalker. I'm telling you now, doing this will set you back from completing your cube. I've talked to plenty of new cube builders and had lengthy conversations about this exact subject and how to fix it. Noob cube builders try to simulate the draft pack you buy from the local game store and ruin the simulation of a good draft experience. The truth is, in cube, every card is as rare as every other card in the cube, from common to mythic. You have one of each single card in the cube. Every card is as important as every other card in that specific color, strategy, and archetype. You want every card to be good and hold a specific purpose for the overall cube, rare or not. And like it or not, novice cube builders also make mistake number 5. Not worried about archetypes and how they mix. Do not put in archetypes and strategies you are not familiar with or don't understand in the cube. If you want to put in any archetypes you are not familiar with, get familiar with it ASAP before you install it into the cube. I use the word install because in order to change or put in an archetype, you really have to configure or reconfigure the cube and all the colors that surround said archetype. This is so you can fix the problem and make it easier for players to see said archetype. The reason why you want to be familiar with your archetypes is to understand your cube's different strategies, and this is for 3 main reasons. 1. You want to know how cards of these archetypes and strategies will break down in other decks made from the cube. 2. You need to be able to gauge the interactions these cards of the chosen archetype you want in the cube to bounce off and complement other strategies. Number 3. A good archetype in your cube is an archetype that can blend well with other decks made from the cube. You need to be able to understand how the cube will distribute ways to answer these cards during gameplay, because it is about playability and the draft experience. It is not about what is the most powerful archetype or strategy. As a keynote, you as a designer need the experience with a lot of different archetypes in Magic the Gathering. You want to have a feel for every archetype possible as a cube designer. The deep impact of cube construction from Pauper or Vintage, 360 up to 720 card cubes, rely on the creator to master the format. The truth is, for you as a new cube builder, you are going to transform from a regular player to a draft master, understanding strategy, archetype, and set design. Over time, your skills of understanding the intricacies of the game piece by piece, you will traverse into the depths of game theory and design. And through commitment and determination, you will master the limited game. And may I welcome you to the creep and to the world of cube design.